Hello, in the name of Iran, in the name of Ahura Mazda. Today is Saturday, June 20th, 2020. I would like to make a book review about John Nassar, Captain Houshang Samadi. Before I make a book review about this subject matter, I would like to give a background about the war between Iran and Iraq. In 1969, there was a dispute between Iraq and Iran, who had the sovereignty over the body of Shatt al-Arab or Iran. At the end, Iran won. And in 1975, Saddam Hussein signed Algiers Accord with Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. And in 1978, a revolution broke out in Iran. And in 1979, the revolution was finalized and the king left Iran. As the king left Iran, there were generals who were governing the Imperial Iranian Armed Forces. They were executed because the Tudeh party, or the Communist Party of Iran, Kiamuri and other people were saying the army needs to be purged. But Khomeini said no. Khomeini was the head of his state of Iran at that time. Iran was in a state of anarchy at that particular time because there was a power vacuum and every ambitious person wanted to rule, wanted to become a governor, wanted to become somebody. So, in this golden moment comes and Iraq invades Iran. Also, Saddam Hussein was a nationalist man and he was using certain historical terminology such as Al-Qadisiyah, that he is going to capture Iran in 1 week. It was short-sighted, but that was his plan. Al-Qadisiyah. What is Al-Qadisiyah? Al-Qadisiyah is the time when Arab's army attacked at Sasanian dynasty in 7th century. And it took 13 years for the Arab army to capture Iran took several centuries really to come back together. It was during Safavid dynasty when Iran regained its national sovereignty. As Iran is becoming an independent nation, Ottoman Empire becoming a powerful nation, becoming an empire itself. Attack at Baghdad and carves it out. And this is based on this book. Nader Shah tries to reclaim Baghdad, but he cannot do it. He fails. He makes some mistakes in his domestic policies and in his foreign policies, and Iran lost Baghdad forever. Now, let's do the book review. That was the background or introduction. What is coming into, because where we are is the result of the past where we are. So Captain Houshang Samadi was born in Iran. He goes to school. He joined the Imperial Iranian Armed Forces. He goes to city of Manjil to receive training. He becomes a ranger. Later on, he was selected to go to England to receive commando and marine training. He comes back to Iran. He becomes in charge of Takavaran. Takavaran means attack trooper, or the kind of a special forces, like a marine, US Marine that the USA has. They're trained on a boat and on a land they could come. He also had to make a presentation to the king, Muhammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, that within the next 10 years, Takavaran will reach to a new milestone. And the king says, well, by that time I'm dead. And he says, okay, we're going to do it in 5 years. The whole thing is going to be happening. And he was in charge of that program to make it bigger, because when we are talking about the US Marine, it has tank, navy, it has everything. It is not just infantry soldiers or engineering that they're running forward. It's very complex. It has a very complex dynamic. So Takavaran at that moment was at the infancy stage. It was not fully developed. In 1978, revolution broke out. In 1979, the king left Iran, and Iran was at the stage of anarchy, chaos. Captain Houshang Samadi was an honorable man. Even people who had issues or they were his adversary, they did not do a street justice with him, kangaroo court, nothing. He remained part of Iranian Armed Forces. He organized them because narcotics was distributed among soldiers. He stops that. He doesn't allow to continue. He helps soldiers to get sober. He talks with the local people not to attack at the military bases, to vandalize and damage or even taking guns, bullets, because they have some equipments that are very sensitive, like electronic equipments are sensitive, they shouldn't be touching it. So the local people respect him. They say, okay, we won't be coming to the base. There was division among army people. They were talking about the rankless army, and the army is based on command and control, is like a triangle, and the concept of why does not exist. They tell you go forward, you go forward. And he shares one story in that nature, that there was a pool and they were training. So the trainer doesn't tell them don't turn. All of them are walking right through that pool. That is army. They tell you do this, you must do it. There is no question asked. There is no democracy raising question, because there is a clause that says we cannot do this, or it says we can do that. You go and you do it. It doesn't matter. So he gets tired. He did 20 years of service. He paid his due to his people. He remained neutral. He didn't take part in politics. He's soldier of Iran. He's soldier of his people. That's the mentality that he has. As he's going through this, and one of the questions that is addressing is, people are saying, I don't know who are these people, but that's what he's saying. There are some people who are saying that the army was not alert. The army was not ready. It was ambush. And he says, no, I was reporting since the 70s. And Saddam Hussein in 1980s comes and says the Algerian Accord is nullified, okay, before he attacks, but he was building his army, okay. On a flat surface is really easy to see a brigade approaching the border, and people, the farmers, they see tanks are coming and infantry soldiers are coming, and they were reporting it. They were saying it. Even I watched one documentary in Iran. The local people were saying, we were reporting the soldiers are approaching the borders, artilleries, everything is coming, and They were not doing anything about it. And so Iranian armed forces at that time was not ambush, was fully aware, but the people, they were at the top, there was a power vacuum, and they were fighting with each other. So he wants to stay out of it. He wants to retire, and before he goes to the office to pick up his release paper, an Iraqi airplane comes, opens fire, and goes in, and the commanding officer says, "What do you want to do? Do you want to retire, or you want to?" And he says, "His honor." That's a really good question of Atik. What would you do? You did 20 years service. You didn't do anything wrong. Would you walk away, or would you continue? And he says, "I couldn't look at my wife and 2 daughters and say, well, I just retire." So he goes to city of Khorramshahr. He has 700 soldiers and 300 from different divisions. Like it has gendarmerie. Gendarmerie are the custom border agents. These custom border agents have rifles, but it's old-fashioned. There is Shahrbani, police. They have revolvers. You really can't do much with revolvers. It's useless. The only thing he has in his assets is 106 gun or cannon. Against tanks are coming, and a few RPG-7 they have. But with RPG-7, you really have to be close to open fire at the tanks. They have no air cover. They have no anti-aircraft. They have no missiles. They have nothing. And the only time he's able to have a backup is Iranian Air Force. And they're coming and they're suppressing the enemy to the ground because they had tanks. They were coming in, and Saddam Hussein had a plan to capture the whole Iran in 1 week. These airplanes are coming and suppressing them to the ground zero. Nothing left from them. Yes, there were revolutionary guards over there that they stood, but this is the problem in a war. The people at that time, people who are trained, they know what they're doing. People who are not trained, they don't know what they're doing. People, they know what they're doing, they're asset. People who do not know what they're doing, they're liability. And that was the case. So, people who had no training, they only had a training for 2 weeks or something like that, they're going to make huge mistakes. And they have to be carried to the back, or they see dead bodies. Their morale is going down. They may feel bad that they couldn't help the guy. So these are huge problems. The other problem that he had over there, he had to face, to confront his enemy, was the 5th column. Because when they were using a radio, the radio was intercepted, and Iraqi forces were coming down hard on them with the rockets, everything they could do. He was keep asking people at the top, send me reinforcements, send me this, send me that. They were saying, yeah, we're going to do it. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. They didn't give him the tools to push back Iraqi forces from Iran. And for 34 days, he held them back. According to Captain Houshang Samadi, says that some people claim that he told to withdraw, and says, no, I didn't say anything. I just relayed the message. And he's right, and he says it himself too. If that was the case, that he would tell, and that's what he says, and that's what he says is true, to withdraw or retreat without higher up, he would face military tribunal and summary execution. There would not be any kind of a mercy for him. So it was other people who told him to withdraw, and after 19 months, him, as his division, his corps, I don't know, the military numbers, I don't know, they're coming and they're liberating Khorramshahr. He sustained serious injuries from shrapnels. I'm not a doctor, but I could say that he sustained post-traumatic stress disorder. Like still he could remember what did happen to those people, how they lost their names, first name, last names, how did they sustain injuries. He remembers all of it. This is really a good book. Learning about leadership, right way of leadership. I'm living in Canada. They believe, leadership believes in conflict is good. I'm not going to go through details about his leadership, and I never would do it with any book review that I do. I want people to go buy the book and they read it themselves, so they understand it, and they see. You will learn about leadership, how to be a leader. I have, maybe on my back you could see some of my books about leadership. No, you don't see. I have read it. They're talking about killing people. It's useless. It could be guerrilla warfare that he used it. Book. Don't go tell police he's a terrorist. People already in Canada have called Royal Canadian Mounted Police saying I'm a terrorist. I'm not a terrorist. I don't know any terrorists. I have no guns. I have no drugs. Nothing. Just a simple man living in a simple way. And I hope one day this book will be translated in many different languages. And one day this book, a movie will be made based on him. There are some movies made in Iran based some small portion of it, but I hope the whole thing from the one was. Yeah. At the end, I like to say, like, I am very sad. What happened? It's not just Iraqi people who died, it's Iranian people died. I hope a day comes that we use reason and logic to talk with each other and resolve our differences. And whatever John Nassar, Captain Houshang Samadi did was right, was for Iranian people. He defended them, and he sustained serious injuries from shrapnels. His legs, boom, boom, bent. But I'm saying that rather than we hurt one another, we listen to one another, understanding one another, and helping one another. I'm looking forward